Hello everyone, this is Eric with GameBall, the gaming trackball mouse. In this video, I'm going to play some Tiny Tina's Wonderlands with GameBall. If you don't know what GameBall is, this here is GameBall. It's a computer trackball mouse. It's the only one designed for gaming. You can find the link to the website in the video below or in the video description below. We also currently have these on sale for the holidays, so if you're looking to get one, now is a good time, so go ahead and click on that link. But most of the video is going to be talking about Tiny Tina's Wonderlands, what it is, type of game it is. I'll show you some gameplay. I'll talk about my end game build, just give you some general tips as you go through the game as well, talk about the campaign and all those fun things. So the game itself is a first-person shooter, so you have a lot of guns, you shoot a lot of things. And when you destroy things or shoot things, you end up getting loot. You have a lot of treasure chests that you get to loot, so it's like a looter shooter, first person. It is co-op up to 4 players. I played it with 2 of my buddies. We're in the end game now, which I'll go over here in a little bit. It's a fun, lighthearted, a lot of comedy. It's kind of a fantasy setting. A lot of different types of monsters. I'll show you some combat here in a minute. But it's pretty fun, pretty lighthearted. Will Arnett, Wanda Sykes, Andy Samberg, and Ashley Birch do the voices. It has some pretty good laugh out loud moments, just like most of the Borderland games. I'd put it up there with right below Borderlands 2. I think this one was pretty well done, and we had a lot of fun with it. It has a decent length campaign. There's a ton of side missions that you can do. I think we spent about 25 hours on the campaign. We didn't do all the side missions, but we went through that, and now we're doing the end game, which is what's called Chaos mode. So I'll get into a little bit more of the gameplay and what the game is. I also will cover my build that I use for the end game and kind of the class and characters I used throughout the game and what I'm using it for the end game or Chaos modes. All right, so let me get in a little bit more about the gameplay. So, a lot of the game is running around, shooting things with your guns, blowing up monsters. You'll see a little bit different here because I'm using a spell. But you have spells, you have melee attacks, you use a lot of guns, you can blow up a lot of stuff. The characters get stronger as you go up in levels. As you can see, as they blow up, a lot of treasure falls out of them. Kind of trademark to a Borderlands style of game. I guess I missed that guy. Let's try to shoot that barrel. I missed it again. But this is a lot of what the game is. There's a lot of like quest givers and missions and things that you do as you go through the game. And then you buy better weapons or get better weapons out of chests as rewards, things like that. Like I said, the campaign is about 25 hours. Definitely more enjoyable with a group of friends. You have different quality of weapons. Your white, your basic, then green, then blue, then purple, and then yellow. Yellow is your legendary weapons. So that's a lot of the gameplay. A lot of different types of maps. These are actually your vendor shops where you can go in here and buy different weapons, different items. Shields, things like that. You have, I'll go to my inventory. You have a melee weapon up to 4 gun types. You can have pistols, submachine guns, sniper rifles, rocket launchers. I currently use mainly submachine guns, but really it's your play style and the class that you choose. Then you have rings. You'll unlock different ring slots. You have a shield. And when you play, if you look on the very bottom left over there, you'll see a red bar and a blue bar. The blue bar is your shield, so that's your defensive shield, and then the red bar is your health. When both of those get to 0, you get knocked down and have to be revived. Or you have a small window to destroy an enemy, and if you destroy an enemy, you get what's called a save your life, and you get a free play, or you get brought back to life. So that's another way to kind of come back. So again, you have abilities, spells, skills. There's a lot of different character classes. I'm using a Spellshot Graveborn build, or you could even say a Graveborn Spellshot build. But there's these different types of classes and skill trees that you unlock as you go. And I'll cover these in a little bit more detail when I go over my build. But there are different types of classes, play styles. Most of it involves shooting a gun or using a melee weapon or some combination thereof. So like I said, I'll go over this in a little bit more detail here in a bit. So the world is a fantasy world, as you probably picked up by now, with skeletons and zombies and giant sharks and trolls and all sorts of different types of monsters running around in this world. You know, you play a hero that's there to save the world and, you know, complete the missions and save this fantasy land. So it's pretty fun. The gameplay is smooth. It's very well done. I would say it's probably too easy. We have it on the highest difficulty, which is the intense difficulty, and it was still way too easy. So, you know, what you could do and what we did is we made it that you could only use green weapons through the main campaign. So you could use white and green, no purple, no blue, and definitely no legendary. And that made it a little bit more difficult. Otherwise, I think the game becomes pretty easy. I think probably the best challenge would be put it on intense difficulty and then only use white weapons. We used up to green, and even that was, for the most part, probably a little bit too easy. So that's the gameplay. When you finish the main campaign, and here, let me show you actually the world first. So this is kind of like the overland map. It does have a fast travel element. This is your main capital city of Brighthoof, and you'll travel to these different areas, and they'll tell you where your quests are, and you can fast travel there by just kind of highlighting it. In this case, you hold down E, and then you pick the fast travel once you've been there, of course, and then you can travel to that location. So the getting around the map is pretty easy. There's also a new overland map too. As you progress through the game, you'll have to travel part of the overworld. Let me show you that, which is new to Wonderlands. I kind of like it. It's a way to kind of move from one area to the next. And there's like little side missions and quests, and there's some chests that you can open up. So you kind of run around this, and it unlocks different areas. Once you've unlocked that area, you don't always have to go through the overland. You can actually just fast travel again, bring up the mini map, and then kind of go where you want to go. I'm going to go to the Chaos Chamber here, which I'm going to show you next. So I'll get into some of the gameplay and the build that I have. So I use, like I mentioned, a Spellshot is my main class, and then Graveborn. You'll start with one class, and then as you go through the game, you'll be able to choose a secondary class. I went with Spellshot first, and then I went into Graveborn. And you'll see the different skills, and I'll talk about those. So what I'm focusing on for this build, and this is an end game build, what you get is once you get through the main campaign, you go into these chaos modes and these chaos trials. And as you go up in level, there's 100 of them. We're currently on 61. The enemy hit points get more damage, but you also get more XP, gold, and then you get these moon orbs, which you use at the end of a chaos run to purchase new equipment, new amulets, new rings, new weapons, shields, that type of thing. So bumping up the chaos level gives you a better chance to get better gear. At the higher level, there's what's called chaotic gear, then volatile, then primordial, and the highest is ascended gear. So we currently have a 14.58% chance to get on a drop to get a piece of ascended gear, which is the highest there is. So that is the chaos mode. Also, when you get to the end game, you start getting this thing called myth rank, where you get these myth points where you can spend them in specific areas to improve, say, fire damage, spell damage, different things, kind of to really complete your build kind of the way you want it. So that's the end game mode, and then the ranks, and then, like I said, you use these chaos mode or chaos trials in this little chaos room, and this will open up once you complete the final campaign. You talk to the Dragon Lord here, and you pick the chaos mode that you want to do. You can do these different runs, or you can actually just do a chaos trial, which is what will bump up the chaos level. In this case, it'd be 61, so if I complete this trial, it'll go to 62. And that also, like I mentioned, gives you the chance to improve your gear and that type of thing. So the build that I have relies very heavily on a couple different things. First off, in the spell weaving or spell shot tree, there's a class ability called Ambihextrous, which instead of having a action skill, I have 2 spells. In this game, you get a spell and you get an action. What Ambidextrous does is you no longer have an action skill, you have 2 spells. So if I go to my inventory, you get these spell books, and you can hold on to 2 spells. So you can actually cast 2 spells. Normally you only cast 1 spell. The way I have it set up is I can actually cast 2 spells. In this case, they're both the same spell, which is Laserhands. And the key to Laserhands and the key to this build is if you look at the very top there when it says 100% critical chance when fully charged. So what that means is if you see that little bar in the bottom middle, that means the spell is charging. And then once it's fully charged, if I release, then I get a 100% chance to get a critical. And I didn't invent this build. This is online. You can find out more details about it. But it's real key to use these 2 spells. You don't have to use 2 of them. I'd recommend using 2 of them. I have one with 2 charges and one with just 1 charge, but that one is ascended. So the key again are these spells, and this is an endgame build. It's a fairly popular build from what I've seen, and it's a very powerful build. You get a lot of one-shot kills, and it really makes it easier to go through these Chaos Trials. But a lot of the key is to really focus on your critical damage. So if you notice, like my rings both have spell damage, and then they have the spell critical hit damage. The rest of it's kind of irrelevant. Like this one has dark magic efficiency, which is fine, but for the most part I'm looking for spell damage and spell critical hit damage. The shield I like for this build is a rune. And if you notice in the middle there where it says rune, whenever you kill an enemy, you restore 15% of your maximum health, which is always helpful, and you'll be killing a lot of guys. You also do 20% fire damage for a short duration. Everything with laser hands is fire damage, so that helps our build. And then 25% maximum ward doesn't hurt there. My amulet is really, you want fire damage, and then either Spellshot or Graveborn. They both kind of do somewhat of the same thing. I think Graveborn might be a little better because of the skill Blast Gasp, which will do quite a bit of burst damage every 20% of the time. But Spellshot's probably a little bit more consistent. So either Spellshot or Graveborn on the secondary there, but you want to get that fire damage. The rest of it isn't really that relevant. This one has the ability when health is below 50%, you summon a Skeep. That's fine. That's somewhat irrelevant. You really just want that fire damage and Spellshot. I'd like a better amulet, but this one will work. Probably another key piece is the armor. This is the Trickster's Smart Armor, which on the very bottom middle there, you'll notice it says total critical hit chance is reduced by 50%, but your critical hit damage is increased by 50%. And this is important because we're trying to maximize, again, our critical hits when we have our fully charged laser hands. So that will do 50% more damage. It says 50% less critical chance, but that's really irrelevant because we get 100% whenever we're fully charged there. If you'll also notice, this is a Spellshot Stabomancer piece of armor. It's not even perfect, but it has an ability on there that I don't have unlocked. So this allows me to go down the Graveborn tree, but then I was able to put 2 points in Double Knot here, which gives me a straight 8% damage whenever I get a critical hit. And because I'm getting critical hits all the time, that's pretty good. It's also fire damage, which I have a lot of bonuses to fire damage, which is why I'm wearing a piece of armor that isn't ideal. There's 2 actually skills that it's using that I don't even have in Stabomancer, but because it has all damage dealt and it has that 50% critical hit damage and it has 2 points in Double Knot, it's pretty good for this build. So let me show you in action kind of how it works, and then I'll go over kind of my button mapping, and then we'll do a quick update on GameBall. I don't want this video to be too long. So the way these Chaos Trials work is they usually have some objective. In this one, you're trying to kill things while you're in these circles, or kill them while they're in the circle. So you charge up your laser hands, you do these shots. Where's that guy? He's in the sky there. You try to kill him while you're in the map here. In this build, you're almost never gonna, he's right behind that thing there, never gonna use your gun. You could every once in a while, but for the most part, you're gonna have a pretty quick cooldown on your spells. So you're going to use your laser hands to kill these guys. There's a couple of them over there. So I completed the side objective, which was to kill the guys in that square. So now I can just finish out and complete the rest of the monsters. I'm actually going to release this critter here, which will allow me to get a few more moonstones. Got to just kill a few more guys. There we go. So that clears the encounter. If you notice, they drop different weapons. They also drop these moonstones. And again, if at the end of the Chaos trial, and they vary in length, sometimes it's like 5, 6, 7 of these levels, you'll get the ability to use those moonstones to purchase different items. So you'll come up, you have to break these dice, you get more moonstones, you pick your difficulty here. You can also make it more difficult. It says you can either just use this portal or you can hold it down to make the portal elite, which makes it a little bit more difficult. Actually, makes it a fair amount more difficult. But what you'll notice there in that round is I didn't fire my gun. It was all laser hands. Because of the way the build is, you have some survivability through Sanguine Sacrament, which whenever you cast a spell, you regenerate health. So you're getting your health back quite a bit. And then you have maximum health through Ascension. And so there's some survivability in the Graveborn tree, which allows you to stay alive. But you really, as you notice, don't even have to fire your gun. You can just, fully charge your laser hands, and that's how you're going to do 99% of your damage. So the way I have my GameBall set up for the various buttons is my left click is my machine gun fire, which for this build I hardly ever use. I actually have laser hands set up for my middle mouse button, so I press and hold that, and when it's fully charged, let it go. So that's my middle mouse button, and then my melee attack is actually my top button there. I have something that fires off these little lightning guys, but so it's fire my gun, one of my laser hands, and then my melee attack on the left side. And then on the right side, I usually always do my bottom right button as my map. I can't do it here in a chaos mode, but that brings up the map. And then my right click is aim down the sights, which again I don't really use in this particular build. You use it quite a bit for different weapons, especially a sniper weapon and things like that. But for this particular build, I'm just casting laser hands constantly, so it's somewhat irrelevant. So that's the laser hands build with the Spellshot class. You can look up more details on it. It's very powerful. As you can see there, I went through that Chaos level 61 with almost no problem at all, and was one-shotting everything. In fact, I think I one-shotted everything. I don't think it took 2 shots to kill anything. Sometimes you'll get these larger critters, these trolls and maybe some of the big sharks that take a couple of hits, but for the most part, that's you'll one-shot just about everything. It might seem a little easy there, but as you go through the chaos mode, it does get a little bit more difficult. Okay, so that's Tiny Tina's Wonderlands. I would recommend it. It's fun. Get some buddies. Go out there, play, have a good time. I would recommend tweaking the difficulty, putting it up to intense, and then probably just using white or green weapons. Otherwise, I think it becomes a little bit too easy. I wish they had one more difficult setting. You could go through the campaign quickly and then turn on the chaos mode to make it a little bit more difficult, but you probably wouldn't go back and do much of the side missions after that anyway. You'd probably just do chaos modes. So if you really just want as difficult as possible, just finish the main campaign with white weapons and then go to the chaos mode and crank that up. At that point, we're using, of course, now we're using our legendaries and purples and things like that. But for the most part, you're going to want to early on through the campaign, if you want to make it a little bit more challenging, I'd recommend white or green weapons, and definitely turn on the difficulty up to intense. So, with your build, try to leverage as much as possible fire damage. One thing I didn't mention was enchantments. So if you look, there's some orange text, yellow and orange text on a lot of these weapons. On this sword, for example, it's the second one down. It says enchanted on spell casts, increase fire damage by 30%. You can enchant your gun, your primary gun that you're carrying. Well, you can enchant any of them, but it only works on the one you're carrying. the melee weapon's always active. You can enchant your shield and your 2 spell books. So with this build, I'm trying to maximize critical hit damage and fire damage. You notice on my gun, after getting a spell kill, which you get a lot of, you increase your damage on your next critical by 50%, which isn't very important. My melee weapon is on spell cast, increase fire damage by 30%, of course, very important. My shield has, when I'm below 50% health, I get health back, and then I do 30% more damage. And then I use on my spell books, on spell cast, increased damage dealt by 15%, and then on spell cast, increased ability damage. Now, I don't have an ability, but because of blast gas, it goes off ability damage, it does help me there. So these aren't necessarily the best enchantments, but they work pretty well for me. You can play with those and see what you like. You do have the ability to change out your enchantments when you finish the main campaign. You can spend this different currency to be able to enhance those. So if you don't like the enchantment or doesn't have an enchantment, you can always put one on there. So it does cost this currency you get by doing chaos runs. Or actually, I think you do get them by any challenge. Any chaos run will give you those. So anyway, that is the game. Like I said, recommend it. Have fun with it. Go out, play with it. I think it was on sale for the last Steam summer sale. This time of year, you can probably get it on sale. I think Steam is having one more winter sale right before the holiday, right before Christmas. So if you want to pick it up then, I don't know if I'd recommend it at full price right now, but if you can get it on sale, I definitely recommend it. I think we got it for $29 when we got it or something like that, and it was definitely worth it. So just one more thing on GameBall and give you an update on that. So we're still continuing to enhance GameBall, the experience, the website, the firmware, doing everything we can to, when we be able to ship in a timely manner, improve our fulfillment. There's always issues internationally. We are looking to expand in other regions going into next year. We've been working on that for quite some time. It's very volume dependent on GameBall, or on really any product. So we're working on trying to expand into Asia Pacific and getting a fulfillment center inside the European Union. Today we ship from the UK, which has its own set of challenges. We actually ship from the US and the UK, but we're looking to ship in more regions moving into next year. We are working on a new model called the GameBall Pro. So this is the GameBall, which is a ambidextrous, you can switch between right-handed and left-handed. The Pro will be only right-handed. It'll still be a finger trackball, so you'll still use your fingertips instead of your thumb to move the ball. So we're working on that for next year. It'll have a newer sensor, newer switches. It'll also have a wireless version. The ball itself will be a little bit larger. So look for more details early next year on the GameBall Pro. The design, what it's going to look like, and when we'll be able to release that. Can't say for sure. It's very dependent on a number of different things, certifications, prototype testing. We are doing internal testing, but we'll actually be doing expanding that to some prototype users in next year. So look for more details on that. I do want to say thank you for watching the video today. Hopefully it wasn't too long, and we will talk to you soon. Take care.